Today's webinar with you. So welcome. I hope you all have a nice hot cup of coffee with you to keep you going, maybe some pen and paper to write anything down. But if you do miss anything, you can head over to our website and look up the resources. First of all, I will just like to do an acknowledgement of country. 30-foot drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, their cultures and beliefs, to elders both past and present. 30-foot drop funding. 30-foot drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys wouldn't see the light of day and would be so much poorer for it as a community. This workshop is part of our realities and advantages of an Access and Inclusion grant awarded to 30-foot drop as part of Information, Linkages and Capacity Building Grants 2018 and 2019. We'll just go through some housekeeping before we get started. Unfortunately, we don't have all the resources to have all of our platforms live streaming. So if you wanted to ask any questions, you'll just need to head to our website, which is under the video, and that is www.30footdrop.com.au/live. There's a live box, just click on that and then head into the chat box and you can ask any questions that you may have along the way. Doesn't even need to be about today's webinar, anything you like. Okay, we'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time, so if you can, we just advise that you try and take precautions for minimum distractions so that we can get all the research is all clear for you. As well, if you tag anyone in any of these webinars or our pages, could you please also tag 30-foot drop, because we feel the more exposure that we get out there, the better, and the more people can understand how the untapped market is affected in this webinar. We'll also be recording this session, so if there's anything that you've missed, or you wanted to go over something that I've been talking about, you can re-watch it once we're finished and write down any notes that you've missed. And all of the resources, like I said before, everything I will be talking about is all available on our website. So head to sources on the website and to our resource library. Everything spoken about is all in there, but in a lot greater detail. And if you know anyone that might benefit from these webinars, it'd be really awesome if you could share this information with you, because we feel like the more people, like I said before, know about this, the better. And we just feel our messages should be heard. At the end of the webinar, we will be doing a quick chat session, and also we ask you please to fill out the survey. So you just need to choose tapping in part 3. There's about 5 questions. Just fill that out. It only takes literally 1 minute to fill it out, because any feedback for us is good feedback. Okay, so let me introduce myself. I'm Lisa and I am one of your wise monkeys. I am here no evil. Just by looking at me, you probably can't tell what I may suffer from. Through me, you will realise that you will hear no evil about impairment. My story is a hidden story. At the age of 8, I was diagnosed with mild dyslexia. Teachers used to hit me on the head, yell out my low marks in front of everyone, and yell at me and say, "Why don't you understand what's wrong with you?" Making me feel completely dumb and unworthy. But despite these challenges growing up with having dyslexia, it only made me more determined to succeed, and I eventually found my passion in art and photography and anything creative. So it doesn't matter, or you might not be the best speller, or you might not be the best mathematician or things like that, but there will be something that you are good at, and it's just a matter of hanging in there and finding that passion. I remember being in an art class and drawing a still life, and the teacher held up my artwork in front of everyone and said, "Wow, this is really good. This is how you should be drawing." And that just stunned me, because I looked around and thought, "Wow, I'm actually kind of good at something." And we're not all the same. We're all different. We've all got different talents and abilities, and it's just a matter of finding that and letting everyone see that you can do better at other things, and it just boosts your confidence so much. So despite the challenges, I have multiple diplomas in the arts field, where I've worked all around the world in art galleries, doing picture framing, hanging exhibitions, organising exhibitions, marketing, everything to do with it, and I love it. I also have a diploma in counselling, because I really like to connect with people and help people through any kind of situation that I can. I feel a lot of empathy for people, and I think that could be through having the dyslexia. I learned at a young age that how things can really hurt you, like how the teachers hurt me, how they used to embarrass me in front of all my friends. That's hard to get past as an 8-year-old, but I'm glad as I grew up and found my passion, I felt strength within myself to move forward and past that. So if you know anyone that has dyslexia or a learning disability, please send them over to this workshop, and they might get some insight as to how it affects other people, and just to be positive and find that passion within you to carry on. Okay, that's me. So the other wise monkey is See No Evil, and that is Ben. He is my he's the other presenter, and he is my boss and the director of 30-Foot Drop and Two Wise Monkeys. He's doing amazing work in the community, and thanks to him we have got this beautiful webinar for you today. He will be sharing his story with you tonight, when he will be doing the tapping in part 3. So I will let you tune in tonight, or other people that want to watch tapping in part 3, listen to his story tonight. Okay, so isn't there supposed to be 3 wise monkeys? Who is Speak No Evil? Who do you think that is? Yes, well, you guessed it, it's you. The aim of today's workshop is to turn you into a wise monkey. You'll begin on a journey of realising that, impairment or not, we all are human and deserve to be acknowledged and treated with the same respect as anyone else. Okay, very important message, that we're all treated the same. Outline a method for today's workshop. How are we going to get you started on the path of a wise monkey? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment and their potential impacts on your business. We're going to examine the size of the market segment, what people with impairment represent, explaining who they are and their potential customer base. Then we'll examine the potential impacts they can have on your business, both positive and negative. All of this, once we finish up with all this good stuff, we will then be doing an open forum before we finish up for the day. So how are we going to cover all this? What will our teaching method be? The answer is fun and open, honest discussion. You'll notice that there's very little written content on the slides, and that's just to make it so that we can all interact with each other, so that you can send questions. You're not having to sit there and try and read all the information, and it also makes it easy for people that may have a learning disability or have vision impairment or have a hearing impairment. The hearing impairment, you can see the pictures, and with a learning disability, you're not having to try and focus on all this complex information. You can just listen, and the pictures help tell the story as well. So next is terminology and review. I'm just going to go through a couple of things that a lot of people get confused about, the two differences, and thinking that it's the same word. First up is disability and impairment. An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause loss of difference or in physiological and psychological function. In short, an impairment is your medical diagnosis. So my impairment is that I have mild dyslexia. A disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level to others due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to access or participate in something. So someone with limited mobility or in a mobility scooter, stairs disable them. They cannot use those stairs. They cannot use that service. So just to take into account, your business needs to be serviceable for these people. These people need to be able to get into your service. Okay, so my example of the limitations for me with my impairment would be too much wording, too much complex information, or stylized script can make it hard for people with dyslexia to understand, which makes it hard for us to get the right information that we might need. So if you've got all this information, big words that only certain people can understand, I would look at that and think, oh, that's just too much for me, and walk away. So you need to take into account that some people's disabilities and impairments are invisible, and you may be losing these people as customers because your information on your website or your social media platforms are too complex, too complicated, and too much information. So something to think about there. Hopefully that all makes sense, the difference between disability and impairment. Excuse me. Next, the difference is access and inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and attitudinal, to participate in activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and is easily assessed with a checklist. Inclusion is more of a psychological state of being and is the process hereby every person, irrespective of their age, disability, gender, religion, sexual preference or nationality, who wishes to can participate fully in all aspects of an activity and service in the same way as everyone else. Inclusion is making sure that everyone is included and everyone can take part. So that's at events, that's at your business, that's at concerts or community gatherings. We all deserve that chance to take part in all of those things. Okay, and once again, if there's any questions, please jump over to the chat and ask away. Okay, next we will be looking at recognizing your target market. Women's sportswear, recognizing the target market. Here's a business idea. Ignore a potential market. That's what many sports and athletic related businesses did until they realized in the mid 1990s that they had been passing on a goldmine: women. Yes, half the population that should be playing with Barbie dolls and prams. Well, in the 1990s were a turning point for this, as the NBC's 1996 Summer Olympic Games coverage targeted women and sports much more than previously, and many more female-orientated sports-related advertisements, apparel and equipment lines merged. So imagine that. Women would actually be interested in doing the same things as other humans, such as sport. Could many other businesses once again be ignoring and missing out on potential market shares? I think so. Consider, for example, a population that has clear, persistent needs that are not being adequately fulfilled. This population spans the world and is growing and includes very motivated customers. Since this population is currently being underserved and misunderstood by many businesses, many of these customers would be very grateful and very loyal customers to your business if their needs were met. This population has an estimated disposable income of Australia-wide of 54 million and growing, which is just crazy. Also consider how margins are always tight and that finding a new and neglected population can help boost your business. So, let's have a look. What is this business? What is this population? Sorry. Here is the Australian population, or 100%, and Ben assures me that he has counted 100 people there. So sometimes, you might get 99, or sometimes you might get 98 or 100. Feel free to count it if you want to. Okay, step 1. There are approximately 5% of the Australian population living with a severe or profound impairment or disability. These people are people who require assistance or have difficulty moving, with mobility, communication and self-care. The second lot of people are the 4% of people looking after people with disability and impairment. So add this 5% from the above to the 4% of the population who are the unpaid primary carers of people with an impairment or disability. You now have a minimum percent of 9% of the population potentially missing out on products and services. That is a big percentage that you could be losing within your business. So that's a fair share, and it doesn't even include the families and friends who accompany this 9%. You may ask, if it is such a big market share, then surely these people are already being served. Aren't there services and goods like the Paralympic Games every 4 years for those with disabilities? Yes, there are some. But that's a bit like saying women who wanted to play sports in the 1970s, yes, well, don't you have hopscotch? While some businesses do seem to understand the market share with people with disabilities, many businesses do not. And that is what our message is today. Deloitte and the Australian Human Rights Commission released a report in February 2017 titled The Missing Out Report, the business case for customer diversity. And in it they presented their research findings about how missed opportunities that occur when businesses do not extend their values, fairness, equality and respect to diverse customer bases. This research covered the diversity areas of gender equality, marriage equality, people with impairment, age, cultural diversity, and practicing a noticeable faith. It is well worth reading and can be found on our resource library. The findings will just shock you. It's just disgraceful how some of these people are treated and that their needs are just not getting met. Totally unfair. Now we're going to look at some graphs and stats of this market share. So some of these results focus on impairment and if businesses are meeting the needs of this market. So graph 1. As a customer, more people with impairment are finding that places often do not provide the products and services that they need. So that's 35% of people with an impairment that are not getting the products and services they need in Australia. And 27% of people who don't have an impairment also find this. So it's very high percentages, 35% that could be walking away from your business. Okay, graph 2. As a customer, over a quarter of people with an impairment usually have a fear of rejection or embarrassment because of a personal characteristic that they have. That's a lot of scared customers. So ask yourself, do scared customers spend money? I definitely wouldn't. Graph 3. As a customer over the last 12 months, I was often treated less favourably than other customers based on a particular characteristic that I have. That's 1 in 3 people with an impairment treated this way because of characteristic or disability. And I just find that so awful. I don't know. I just don't understand it. We're all the same. We're all human. Okay, graph 4. This one shocked us the most. Getting discriminated against by one or more organisation. This is just crazy. Almost 30% of people feel like they are being discriminated against by a company or a business. Crazy figures. Once again, are you going to spend money if you're discriminated against? I don't think so. So these stats show that there is definitely a market that is not having its needs met. Next, we'll have a look at who this market share is and who are the people behind these stats. Very interesting figures. Okay, who are these people? These people are just like all of us. We have passions, loves and families. We purchase consumer goods like food, clothing and cars. We go to the movies, we go out for dinner, we go on holidays, we have hobbies. But for some sad reason, people with disability and impairment are treated differently. In short, people with impairment are active contributors to the community and the economy. As a result, they represent a market share to businesses and organisations, just like everyone else. Because of this market share, we also are able to impact your organisation, and how we impact your organisation is up to you. So, potential impacts of access and inclusion. Let's have a look at some of the impacts people with impairment can have on your business. These are only a minority in ethical consumerism. When it comes to minorities, people can often say it's only a minority. There isn't enough of them to make a difference. As discussed earlier, we can safely say it's about 9% of the population. What research has found is that people with impairment are a decisive and influential minority. Let's have a closer look at the results and go back into the missing report and look at some more stats. Okay. Over the past 12 months, I have ceased a transaction because I have felt that I was treated unfairly. As we all know, purchasing power is in the hands of customers, and when people don't get what they want, either in terms of product or service, they cease that transaction. So that's 29% of people that are ceasing a transaction because they are not getting treated fairly by the person serving them at the business or service. In the Missing Out report, they examine this closely and add other factors such as respect and fairness. So graph 2. The results in this report show that 1 in 5 customers without an impairment will cease a transaction, and that jumps to 1 in 3 with people with an impairment, if they are not treated with respect and fairness, showing that a negative experience has driven them away, which is, once again, terrible. Definitely don't want to spend money if you're not treated fairly and treated with respect. Okay, graph 3. More than just walking away from a sale, people with impairment are twice as likely than the rest of society to dissuade other people from using your product or service. Twice as likely. So basically, if your company is not treating people with impairment with respect and fairness, your business is already being affected. I have been asked in the past if supporting diversity in businesses can have an adverse effect. Can it drive other customers or current customers away? In the Missing Out report, they found that 12% of people were negatively affected by a business's diversity reputation, and 58% were positively affected. So it just shows 58%, that's pretty high. So these people were positively affected because of you including everyone. 30%, and then the other 30% of people weren't worried. So this businesses can be more inclusive, and it can be definitely a positive move. So this result is not impairment specific, but includes other minorities, which can be quite diverse, such as marriage equality, people with impairment, and older people. Okay. Key findings to these graphs. To finish off this section, I want to read to you a relevant key finding. Customers with an impairment are 3 times more likely to avoid an organisation and twice as likely to dissuade others because of the organisation's negative diversity reputation. There is a good chance that your business isn't accessible or inclusive and that it's already being impacted. So if your business is not showing that it's inclusive to everyone around us, then you're losing that percentage of people. We've covered the possible negative effects today, but let's have a look at the positive effects, which are ethical consumerism. Ethical consumerism isn't just a positive for financial impacts, it's also a positive movement for a better future for everyone. So what is ethical consumerism? Ethical consumerism is a form of political activism based on ideas that purchasers in the markets consume not only goods but also implicitly embrace the process used to produce them. By choosing certain parts over others or whether to purchase them at all, customers can embrace or reject particular environmental and labour practices and make other valuable claims based on the ethical values that they hold. Exercising choice in this way creates incentives for producers to make production practices which conform to the consumer's values. Successful campaigns waged by ethical consumerism movements have popularised dolphin-free tuna foods that are free from GMOs, sweatshop-free clothing, fair trade coffee, cosmetic-free diamonds, free from cosmetic products free from animal testing, and conflict-free diamonds. So, applying to an impairment. How can ethical consumerism be connected to people with an impairment? Who here has heard of the quiet hour that's being run at Coles and Woolworths? Sort of been around for maybe a year and a half now. For those that haven't, let me explain what this is. Impairments make some people hyper aware of their surroundings, making activities such as going to the supermarket really challenging. At Coles and Woolworths, every Tuesday between 10:30 and 11:30, stores' lighting is dimmed by 50%, the radio is turned off, registers and scanners are reduced to the lowest level, trolley collections are stopped, and roll cages are removed from the shop floor. PA announcements are also stopped, except in the case of an emergency. Free fruit is offered at the customer service desks. Additional team members are available to support the customers that are coming through the doors. This is an amazing initiative and makes a great difference to many people. It has also increased the ethical reputation of both businesses, Coles and Woolworths. If you research on the internet, you will see it has been published all over Australia. So ask yourself, how do you think this has affected consumers? I would say that there's a lot of people that online shopping has come about in the last few years, but now that they have this quiet hour, these people might feel like they feel comfortable going into Coles and Woolworths and do the shopping on their own because the radio's been turned down, there's not as many people, the lighting's not too bright. There's so many different reasons why people are using this awesome idea that Coles and Woolworths are trialling. So I hope that all made sense today. That is tapping in part 3. We will also be doing another one tonight, so if you know anyone that you think would benefit from today's session, please tag them and get them to sign in for tonight. The one tonight Ben will be doing, and that is at 6 o'clock WA time. So now, if you have to go, that's fine. We would just like to ask you to fill out the survey that's under this video. So follow the link 30footdrop.com.au, fill out the survey. It's only 5 questions or so, and we'd appreciate it. Okay, so right now I'm just going to turn the video off for 5 minutes and then I will jump back on and see if there's any questions. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to message me now and I'll see you back in 5 minutes. Thanks, guys. Okay, so it doesn't appear to be that there's any questions today, which is fine. If you have any questions and we're not online, feel free to send us a message over Facebook, YouTube, or our webpage. We thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope you understood everything. If you need more information, just head over to our website, or there's another Tapping in Part 3 with Ben tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good day, everyone. See you later.